Recording in progress.
All right, welcome everyone. It's now about 6:31 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on this third day of September 2024. I ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you lead us?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Lord, we're meeting here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom on our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. And as always, we thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, thanks, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Kotrick,
Present.
Krug is present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal,
Here.
Tucker.
Present.
You have full board members.
Thanks, Bob. All right, I'd also like to note for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, our Operations Manager Tom Broker, our Fire Chief Ryan Volz, Zoning Administrator Mike Deem, and our Township Assessor Julia Wilson are also present this evening. Additionally, the following Township officials are present via Zoom, our engineers Alan and Melissa Lawrence. All right, Tom, will you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes, to the members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised the meeting is being recorded to be shown on Public Access TV, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there's one public hearing for Street Lighting Special Assessment District for Cider Creek, during which public comment will be accepted. All other public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at fentontownship.org.
All right, thanks, Tom. Moving on to the first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
I vote yes, Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, agenda stands approved as presented. Next business order is the meeting minutes. And included in the packet are the meeting minutes from the August 20th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to these meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? Questions? All right, hearing none, a motion is ordered to approve the expenditures totaling. Tom, forgot to email me the number. Jeez, there's a hole in my...
558, 43908.
Everybody hear that?
Yep.
All right. For payment.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote yes, Kotrick.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thanks. The expenditures stand approved as presented. Moving on to our first public hearing. This is the proposed street lighting special assessment district, Cedar Creek, Phase 1. This is the hearing of necessity. The owner... Cider Creek, sorry. The owner developer of the Cider Creek condominium subdivision has petitioned for a street lighting special assessment district. The estimated cost of the project is $800 for street light installation, $960 per year for operation and maintenance of the street lights, plus administrative costs. This is the public hearing on the creation of the special assessment district. The board will now accept public comment on the following: the creation of the special assessment district, the proposed boundaries of the district, the necessity of the improvement, the plans for the improvement, and the cost estimates for the improvement. I will now open up the meeting for public comment. Tom, is there any written comments?
None.
All right. Is there anyone here in person that would like to address the board on the proposed special lighting special assessment district? Anyone here? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to Zoom. Is there anyone in attendance via Zoom that would like to address the board tonight? If so, just unmute. Hearing nothing, I will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. Resolution number 2024-36. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Yes, thank you. Approves the plans and estimated cost, creates the Cider Creek number 1 street lighting special assessment district, which includes units 1 to 30 in the Cider Creek condominium subdivision, directs the supervisor to create a special assessment role, repeals any conflicting resolutions. I will move the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Patrick?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
I vote yes. Gopal?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Reed?
yes,
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, in anticipation of the adoption of the previous resolution, a special assessment role has been created, certified, and filed with the Township Clerk. Resolution number 2024-37. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Yes. Acknowledges the filing of the special assessment role with the clerk and its availability for review until the public hearing. Schedules a public hearing on the special assessment role at the September 17th board meeting. Directs the clerk to publish and mail notices of hearing according to statute. Repeals any conflicting resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
yes,
Kessler.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. Moving on to the next business order is reports. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications. This evening we have none. Moving on to adoption of ordinances. This is rezoning number Z024-003, BMP Laring LLC, part of parcel 06-08-300-015 and parcel number 06-07-400-002. This is a vacant lot at Laring Road west of Linden Road from R3 to Ag. This is the second reading and the vote on the adoption.
So
Mike?
real quick summary. The request is go from R3 to Ag. Master plan has this as low density residential, which is what our Ag category is for. You recently approved the adjacent parcel for a similar rezoning request. Planning Commission recommends approval based on compliance with the master plan.
Thanks, Mike. Treasurer. Have anything to add?
I'm going to nickname him Whisper, I think. James Bond reference for those of you. Yeah, no, I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add?
It's the same song, second verse, I think.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, a motion is ordered to adopt an amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to rezone part of parcel 06-08-300-015 and parcel number 06-07-400-002 from R3 to Ag as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
yes,
Lorraine.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. Next, under adoption of ordinances, rezoning number Z024-004. Danny Niemer, parcel number 06-16-300-010, address of 4436 Ralston Road, from Ag to R3. This is the second reading and vote on adoption.
So again, what we're looking at is a rezoning request from Ag to R3. The master plan has this area identified for medium density residential. It's had that classification in the master plan for over 20 years. The Planning Commission reviewed the request for the rezoning and found that it's consistent with a medium density residential classification. The surrounding properties are also zoned R3, which is what this property is looking to be rezoned to. The property will also have access to water and sewer. Together, those are consistent with a medium-density residential classification, of which R3 is. Planning Commission has passed a recommendation for the rezoning from Ag to R3.
Thanks, Mike. Treasurer Tucker, anything you'd like to add?
Certainly, I agree with everything that Mike said. And now for the rest of the story. As you know, this was triggered by a conversation when we had the first reading. Christine talked about rezoning in a context of not having the appropriate infrastructure in place for the potential development on the property that you're going to rezone. She was talking about roads, and I don't agree with her on that, and we will talk about it. But it did cause me to think, and it caused me to realize that something she said I actually knew about with respect to infrastructure, and that is that the sewer in this area of the township is already at its current design capacity load. So I know this because the project to fix that problem goes through my lakefront, we call it my front lawn, backyard, I don't know, the lakeside portion of my property. So I've been talking to the engineers over time about this. I knew what the issue was, but it never occurred to me until you made your comment, and it triggered a thought in my mind. And I think that it would be inappropriate until we get this capacity fixed, and we are in the process of doing that, to adding more land that would draw heavily on the sewer until we get that done. Okay, so you say, all right, well, when is that? Well, the problem is known, it's a known problem. The fix is known, and it's a known fix. The best estimate I got from Lawrence today was that the project for the expansion of that pipe, and it goes all along Tupper, goes across the river, to get capacity for this area of the township, and I'm going to call it the northwest quadrant. I don't know that that's totally precise, but it's generally correct, is that we'll start in the fall of next year. So basically a year from now, I would guess the project's going to take, we'll just say 6 months. So we're talking probably about 18 months. And I also think that we should consider some kind of a moratorium on rezonings in this quadrant for whatever the sewer district zone proper name is. There's probably, Mike, you might even be able to tell me what it is, unless, until we have the capacity. Because if we don't do that, what we're doing is creating competition amongst all of the folks that are already zoned. Some of them already have site plans, and it becomes a race to get to the limited capacity that we have. So I agree with Mike. I think this should eventually be R3 property. I just don't think it should be R3 property right now until we can get the infrastructure problem resolved.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker, is there any other questions or comments from the board?
Do you know if we could hear from Melissa or Alan Lawrence about that?
They are on. Would you like to hear? Melissa, could you please unmute and address the question or address what Treasurer Tucker's just discussed?
Yes, that is 100% accurate. We monitor that sewer to make sure it's flowing well, and it is. But per the design, all the approved projects that are to be built that will flow through that sewer, it will be at capacity once everything is built out. So that's why we've already designed, we've got approval for said design for the upgrade to that sewer so that it will have more capacity moving forward.
Melissa, it's my understanding, you and I talk about this project quite often, that project will start, or can you let the residents know when you think that project will start? I know the board still has to approve it, but...
At this point, it looks like we should be ready. I mean, we're really ready effectively. We're just waiting on the Eagle permit to come back, but, and then we've got, of course, bid it out, award the project and all that. Plus, we would rather construction happen in the winter months, just because of the nature of where this is and what it's doing. So we don't want to, certainly we don't want to do it in the spring and run into summer. So that's why we're looking at fall of '25 to start the project.
So this project will start in the fall of 2025 with a completion date, expected completion date?
Probably 6 to 10 months after that,
Okay. So we're talking mid-2026.
yes.
So I'm sure all of you understood exactly what Treasurer Tucker said, is that right now we have a sewer system that's near capacity, and what he's recommending to this board is that we do a moratorium on changing any zoning until we have the capacity to do that. Am I correct?
Changing any zoning that would cause an increase in sewer. Like, for instance, we had a rezoning just before this one that was going the other direction. That also I would be in favor of, because it's going to take less potential load off the system. And again, I'm talking about a relatively short-term period of time, but to your point, I think that's the right approach at this point in time.
So if I can just jump in and ask a question relating to that. The, I don't say outlots that are on Ralston Road, part of the point of this rezoning request was to reconfigure those lots to get their septic systems on the same parcel. You know, those small lots are zoned R3. And so the rezoning request would allow them to expand to repartition their lots to get the septic on those parcels. So with that said, it sounds like the moratorium you are talking about would not affect a request in that.
Right, because it's not something that's going to increase the load on the sewer system until we can get it fixed.
So I have a question about what you just brought up. You're saying that we're at capacity and this project is underway to fix that section of the sewer system.
Yes.
Should we be aware of any other sections where we have the same issue?
Melissa?
No.
We do not have this issue anywhere else in the sewer.
Okay, so it's an isolated area that we have where we're at capacity.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
Melissa, what is the appropriate name for this section of the sewer system, if there is one?
I don't know.
Okay.
But they changed the name of it, but it's, you know, it's effectively what you said. It's the northwest area there of the highway.
All right.
Come on, Melissa, you know we refer to it as the Tucker Project.
But that is what we call it.
Well, I guess my question, Melissa, could you and I then put together, well, I guess we really wouldn't have to until the request comes up. I mean, if we're going to do a moratorium, then until the request comes up, I was going to say we could draw the boundaries, but yeah. Okay.
Well, Mike's going to tell you want to get
You
it
want
in
the
place.
moratorium before you get a request.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so, all right.
So, I mean, that's something you need for the next meeting, if that's what you want to consider.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board?
So are we saying we're going to table this tonight? I mean, how?
Well, we
No,
could-
I think we have to vote on it.
I mean, the
vote on it.
applicant can ask us to postpone if they want to write it out. It's just going to take a little bit of time. That, you know, I would, if it was me, I would ask the applicant if they want to vote or postpone.
Mr. Deemer, I saw you here. Would you like to come up? If you would, please. Thank you for attending. Just want to ask you one question. Would you consider, before we go to the vote, putting your application on hold? I know you're in due diligence. Again, we're not here to discuss project or anything, just the rezoning. Do you want to postpone that so you can go back to the seller? Or do you want us to take a vote on it now?
The sellers are here today as well, and this is going to be done in such phases. So like the burden on the infrastructure isn't going to happen with all the properties being developed at the same time. I think what we're trying to achieve today is what I was hoping to achieve today, obviously to get the rezoning done, but to also maybe say, okay, if we were to do this in phases, by the time we get to phase 2, that year process, let's say, or whatever it takes, is there an opportunity for us to at least secure the property, start doing our end of the infrastructure, and getting a portion of it so that it can be buildable, and then once the sewer gets to the point where it is able to handle the rest of the residential homes, then we can continue on phases 2, 3, and so on.
Thank you.
And that's what we're. And this is news to us as well, though. So, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Does that help?
Is there any other questions or comments from the board? So would your answer be you still want us to move forward with the?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think I would like to move forward, but
Well, I certainly can't tell you how the board's going to vote.
Okay,
So I'm putting it out there.
I would like to move forward, but if there was conditions to be put on it, I would be in agreement with that as long as we can do something in the here and now. So yes, I mean, I'd like to see the vote on it, and then, but I'd like to be, again, with consideration of how we can phase this thing out so that it doesn't hurt the township, doesn't hurt anyone for that matter.
Well,
The infrastructure.
Would we not need then?
Yeah, you can't do that on this request. That's
Yeah,
gonna
on
be
this
conditional
request we
zoning.
can't.
So I mean,
It'd
I
have
guess
to be-
right now, what we're asking for is to follow the master plan and see about getting it rezoned from ag to R3. I would like to proceed with that.
Okay.
Rather than just tabling it and waiting a year and a half to come back to do this. Because I mean, if they're not, again, I'm in a due diligence period like we had talked about. If this doesn't happen now, if the sale of this property or anything like that doesn't happen now, not only am I stuck, but so are the sellers.
Right.
And so we're just trying to make it fair for everybody, that if we can get it zoned to R3 and then discuss possibly doing it in phases, that's not going to add additional pressure to the public system.
Any other questions? Rob?
No.
Cade?
No, I just think, a year and a half is a pretty long time. I'd like to, assume that it's not gonna add any pressure, but a year and a half is a long time to have it zoned as R3 if we're gonna then, if we don't want anything built on it for that period of time. I mean, obviously the whole development, it does sound like wouldn't go up, but, if we're worried about it already being pretty close to capacity, I think a year and a half is a long time to have it. So
You mean the moratorium?
No, I'm saying like, if we rezone it as R3, I would imagine there could be houses built in the year and a half that would then have to have sewer access. So I would think we would want a moratorium, maybe not quite, and maybe until the project starts for the sewer portion, but.
See, I don't think houses would go up if there's a sewer issue, right? Because at the site plan,
At the site plan.
that's when you evaluate available REUs and whatnot, right? So we know there's an issue. If by the time they're ready to pull permits, those issues have not been resolved, permits won't be issued, right? But I suppose, even big picture, I don't see a site plan being approved until capacity has been addressed.
So, I don't know if I'm asking this the right way. So what you're saying is that now that we know, the township knows that there's a capacity issue, even if we follow the master plan, which I certainly believe in, I know that you do, that even if we changed it to R3, you're telling me you don't think that anything, no, I would hope you would never send something up from the planning commission, because I think the board would turn it down until the capacity issue is taken care of, now that it's, that we now have knowledge of it. So what you're saying is, are you recommending then, or to follow the master plan, do that, and then the planning commission's going to deal?
So I'm going to
Okay.
give you two statements here.
All right,
All right?
I'm ready. No,
He's got a voice
Rob,
problem.
he's got a voice, he had surgery.
Well, let's let him say it. Let him say it. We'll reiterate what he says.
All right, so from the site plan issue, right? The site plan would not move forward if the capacity is not there. Wouldn't be approved because that's not what we would do, right? From the master plan side of things, one thing that we've said is that just because a classification is in the master plan doesn't mean that the conditions have been met for that classification. So with the understanding that there's a sewer capacity issue, you may make the determination that it is not in compliance with the master plan. So I would say your recommendation tonight would be based on the master plan and how you interpret compliance with the master plan. So again, just because it says medium density residential, right, doesn't mean the conditions are appropriate at this point in time for medium density residential. This is what we talked about on Silver Lake Road, where there's, we identified new areas for commercial. We've said that just because those areas are there doesn't mean that the conditions at this point in time are appropriate for all, rezonings. So that should be part of your determination as you discuss this, right? If you find that it complies with the master plan, you should approve it. But just because there's a classification that says medium density is not the only part of the master plan itself. So, based on the question you asked, if your finding is that there is not enough sewer capacity, then your finding could also be based on that. It is not compliant with the master plan. Does that make sense?
Part of it be compliant. the other
Did
part-
you hear that?
Right.
Did everybody understand that? John, you want to summarize in a legal?
Well, what Mike is saying is just because you're consistent with the future land use map in the master plan doesn't mean you're compliant or consistent with the entire future land use plan, and that the utility infrastructure or other infrastructure are components that are part of that process. So you can say, yes, this is future land use mapped for that, and will probably be that at some point in time, but this is not the point in time for reason X. And in this case, one of the reasons is sewer capacity.
So you're saying that this would be the time, what you're saying is that we can consider not making the change now because of the knowledge of the sewer that we have.
I believe it's legally supportable that it was not consistent with the master plan, even though it may be consistent with the future land use map because of the lack of utilities.
Okay, so now another question that I have though. Would it be the same thing to be consistent with the future land use map to approve R3 at the same time, knowing that nothing until the capacity issue is complete? So if now the future land map mirrors our master plan, but we know that because of the capacity issue, nothing would come to the board, which would prevent
Right.
any building on that until the capacity issue is done. I just want to make sure the board understands everything.
It's pragmatic, what you're describing, but site plans do not come before this board. And as long as I'm sitting on the plan commission, I think you can reasonably assume I'm going to be alert to that. But I missed it until Christine made her comments. It didn't occur to me, even though the project is running through my front yard. Okay, so it's possible. So those are distinct things that would get you to the same point. But what we're trying to decide tonight is whether or not this is consistent with the master plan. I think we can all agree that it's consistent with the future land use map. But in light of the utility problem that we have with sewer capacities, I think we can safely determine that at this point in time, it is not consistent with the master plan, and we're working on it. This is something that is relatively short-term. No, not trying to quibble about timeframes, but
Oh, no, yeah, I just wanted to say, I think we all expect to approve, the board hasn't actually approved this sewer
Right.
expansion.
Correct.
Yeah, So, I mean, I think we all probably we all would like our sewer system not to be
Right.
overly strained, so we're probably all expecting to approve it, but it just seems to me kind of speculative to say that we're
Right.
gonna,
Right.
we're gonna approve the rezoning when the rezoning isn't supported by the infrastructure yet. I mean, we don't know. I don't expect anything to happen. Some sort of disastrous thing could happen. Maybe we don't have funding and we end up not,
Sea turtles are discovered somewhere,
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever.
or
Yeah, right,
the new board comes in
Right.
in
right.
December and says, we don't want to expand the sewer,
Because we don't want any development.
yeah, or something.
Good luck, John.
Um,
Sewer gets stopped right there at your property.
I can start
Just
selling.
drill holes in it.
Start selling permits.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I just think it's kind of too speculative to approve right now, and obviously that doesn't mean assuming the future
Right.
land use map stays the same, then once this gets built,
Right,
if we're following your dicta of follow the master plan,
right.
we will we'll be approving it then.
Correct.
Yeah, you're
Any
right.
other questions or comments from the board?
No.
All right. A motion is in order to adopt an amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to rezone parcel 0. Now, the public comment, this is not a night for public comment, sir. We did have public comment last time, just so you know that the board does have everybody's comments, they have their names, they have their concerns, all of that sort of stuff. So,
Okay, but you had comments, and then you guys made a decision, and then you didn't open it back up for comments, so
Wait,
now
wait.
you're making a decision.
We haven't made any decision.
we haven't made any decision. We're voting on it right now.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
okay,
All right, no problem.
okay.
To rezone parcel number 06-16-300-010 from Ag to R3 as presented.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
No.
Lorraine,
No.
Gopel,
No.
Kessler,
No.
Reed,
No.
Kotrick,
No.
Krug votes no, motion fails.
All right. Everybody understand what just happened? All right, thank you. Next, under adoption of ordinances, proposed ordinance, this is on short-term rentals. You might want to stay, this will be fun. This is the second reading for the 6th time on the vote and adoption. Zoning ordinance amendment, short-term rentals, and the general police power ordinance on short-term rentals. Our zoning administrator, Dean, will review.
All right, let's see if we can get this going for you. So the draft that you have in front of you treats short-term rentals as a special use permit in the agricultural zoning district for the rental of the whole house. It would treat short-term rentals in commercial and multifamily as permitted uses. And then it would treat short-term rentals for owner-occupied only in single-family residential zoning districts as a special use permit. And so essentially what that means is that you cannot rent out a whole house in a single-family residential district. This ordinance in front of you also removes the cap, and it also removes the distance requirement. The thought process behind these changes from the previous version was that since a minimum lot size for the ag is 2 acres, that having the larger lot size, you're less likely to have the nuisance issues that you would with smaller lots. So that's why you would be allowed to rent out a whole house there. For requiring owner-occupied only in single-family residential, one, it reduces the opportunities for nuisances, and it eliminates opportunities for corporations to purchase houses in a township solely for short-term rentals. We've talked about this at the last meeting. We've talked about versions of this at previous meetings. The majority of the previous ordinance is still intact with these specific changes.
Thanks, Mike. I'm gonna, before I take any comments or questions from the board, again, we've talked about this a lot. we've thrown it back, I think, 2 or 3 times to the planning commission, and all 3 times they came back and said, no, we've did this 1.5-year process. We listened to the public, and this is what our recommendation is. We've made some fine-tuning to that, and I think we've touched on almost everything that this board wanted to make as far as minor changes as best we could. So this is where we're at today, so I'll open it up. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a couple of comments.
Sure.
So I think we've resolved some issues, but I think in my mind we've created some others. And the more I've thought about it, a couple of them have come up. So we do have houses that would be an R3 or a residential area that may be owned by an entity. So who, and I'm just going to pose some questions, just food for thought here. Who would be the on-site owner that's required to be on-site, living in the property while it's being rented? Just a thought. The other thing is, if the owner is on-site, even in a residential district, how does that differ from a bed and breakfast? The third being, we have a section in here restricting the rental of your watercraft if you're a riparian owner. But if I'm living on...
More stringent requirements such as they have to provide breakfast, so that's really...
Bed too?
Yeah, so the definition is a little bit different, but it would be a special use permit. So it's similar to what that process would be.
Again, I'm just going to say, it's been a 2-year process. We need to get something on the books. It's in the end of the season, so all of you that have had to put up with any complaints or anything else, the season at least,
Down.
yeah, it's winding down. But I don't think we should keep pushing this down. It's been a couple years. We need to get something on the books. I've told the board that I don't think we're ever going to find a perfect solution, Christine. Nothing is going to be perfect. Every other municipality's done exactly what we've done. But the one thing I have learned is get an ordinance in place and we can tweak it. We're going to get comments from people. They're going to, complaints coming in or no complaints coming in. We can tweak this down the road, but I would highly recommend the board at least get something on the books. I'm not saying this is it. I'm just saying I think tonight, if those are the questions, if we can get through those questions and we can vote on this, at least we've got an ordinance on the books, we've got police power, we've got a company out there that is willing, we've already hired to work and to monitor all of this. I think it's really good. And we're mirroring right now what other municipalities have done when they started here, went here, and now they're here. And I think the Planning Commission has done a great job. I know Mike has spent a lot of time. I'm hoping that the board can at least get something on the books. And if this is the closest we've been able to come, then I say, let's take a vote. Let it fall where it falls.
I'll take a stab at one of the questions you raised. In the condo setting, a lot of condos are owned by entities, okay? And typically what you do is you have to designate for voting purposes, you got to say, this is the person, because the entities aren't going to vote. So I don't think that's an insurmountable problem. You'd have something like that. A lot of properties, especially along lakes, are owned by trusts.
Correct.
And same kind of thing. So I think that's a manageable problem in the overall scope of things.
So where would we manage that? Would that be part of the permitting process?
Yes.
Yeah,
They're going to have to designate who that on-site person is.
Yes.
When we say on-site, is it they've got to stay in the garage, the house that they're renting, a trailer, a pup tent that I could rent them if they want? It seems to be ambiguous, but
Well, on-site is, it's defined by the property that you're talking about. Whether they're in the northwest corner or in the upstairs bedroom, they got to be within the boundaries of the property. Now, are we going to not let them go to the grocery store? That's not the kind of thing that we're, from an enforcement standpoint, we're going to concern ourselves. What we're going to concern ourselves with is,
And at the same time, you have to comply with other ordinances. You're not allowed to sleep in an RV on site. You're not allowed to be in a garage, right? So it's going to be habitable space on the property that has been approved for habitation. So a bedroom.
Can't sleep in a tent? Just
If-
asking.
If we're going by the ordinance,
Kate, did you have anything?
No, I mean, I think it's been tremendously improved. I do think there could be problems that come up.
We'll deal with them.
I personally, if I were designing, I'm not sure I would require them to be on site. I might require them to reside there or something, but I think that we've addressed pretty much all the fairness concerns I had about earlier versions of the ordinance, where it would be one person is getting the special use permit, is causing the property values around them to go down, and then those people can't take advantage of the same thing. And I think by having something along the lines of the owner on site, we also naturally are going to address a lot of like noise complaint. There'll be someone to complain to who can immediately has the authority to stop noise or whatever it is. And also just by having anything in place, any sort of ordinance, any of the ones we've considered, once there's a permit, then people don't want to lose their permit. So that's going to create a pretty strong incentive for people to actually follow our ordinances. And lots of the complaints we've had don't even really require the new ordinance. They're violations of our existing ordinances, but now those violations would cause you to lose the permit. So I am in favor of it, and not saying it's perfect, but I'm in favor of it right now.
Just for the public that are here and the public that'll watch this on YouTube, this was a 2-year process. No matter what we do up here, not everyone's going to be happy. I can tell you that right now. But the process has worked. We've held multiple 3, 5 public, forums where we invited everybody from the township, including a complete mailer. So I just want you to know, this board, the planning commission, has worked very hard. And again, no matter what I get up here and say, somebody's going to be mad, but I think I would like to say thank you to the planning commission. I'd like to say thank you to the board because I'm going to pull it up for a vote right now, and we'll do what it is. And if we have to tweak things going forward, we'll tweak them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add, that point. I'll guarantee you that whatever we do, whether it's this or whatever it is, it's going to change. We just have to know that and be aware of it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the process of growing and learning and developing. So,
Last one question, when you're done.
yeah, I'm gonna vote in favor of this. My planning commission folks are probably gonna string me up because they feel pretty strongly about it. But I think we need a starting place, and this gives us something to work with, because the alternative is continuation of Wild West. So this is a starting point. There will be issues. We're not going to be done talking about it today by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to vote in favor of it because I think we need a starting point.
Sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't here last meeting, so I don't know if this was covered, but it says zoning districts permitted, and then special use in the Ag R1, Ag 2, R3. What is going to be the approval or denial of the special use in the non-automatically permitted zones?
Mike, planning commission, the same. Yeah, Mike, I'll let you address it.
You understand my question?
so if they have a deed restriction that says they're not allowed to run a business, if a homeowner association has approved rules that say they're not allowed to have a business out of their property, those are, the ordinance requires that they show proof that there's no conflicts with their deed restriction or homeowner association rules.
This isn't subjective
No,
to make me happy, is what I'm getting at.
correct.
I know, I got you.
Okay.
That's why I wanted him to answer.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, for whatever reason, they don't have someone living on site, right? If they're in single-family residential, and that's a requirement, right? That would be a reason not to approve it. There may be additional limitations on the number of bedrooms they can use. if they're only on a 55, 40-foot wide lot and their neighbors are only 5 feet. I suppose that would be the only subjective part that's in there, but it wouldn't prevent them from renting out. I suppose now that the requirement is for single family, that the owner resides, is there on the property, that some of the concerns that may have been present would no longer be there. Overall, if you're able to comply with the application, and there's the changes that were made were done so based on the concerns that you guys brought up, and I think trying to remove any subjective
I appreciate
qualifications.
that, and that's why I saw that, and I know that's changed from the last time we discussed it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Mark, just so you know, in the ordinance already, there are criteria for evaluating special use permits to try and do exactly what you're talking about.
I just don't want this to be a,
Right.
okay, we're gonna include it, shut him up, and get his vote, and then say, yeah, you didn't meet the criteria.
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah, well,
I'm with Kate, I mean, just to address Kate, just so you know, my only issue, it's so close, guys. It's so close. It's just that the owner has to be on site, permit, or site. That's my only, that's it.
All right. Nothing else. A motion is in order to adopt an amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to add short-term rentals use as follows. Permitted use in RM, which is multiple residential, family residential, in all commercial zoning districts. Use by special use permit in ag zoning district, and use by special use permit in single-family resident zoning districts for owner-occupied properties only. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the motion.
second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel,
No.
Tucker.
Yes.
I vote no. Reed,
No.
motion passes 4-3.
All right, next, a motion is in order to adopt a general ordinance to establish regulations for short-term rentals as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel,
No.
Tucker.
Yes.
I vote no. Reed,
No.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Kotrick.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-3.
All right, thanks, Bob. Next, under adoption of ordinances, proposed updated sign regulation ordinance. This is the introduction and the first reading. Zoning Administrator Dean, will you please review? Sorry for your throat, buddy. Huh?
Hey, it is what it is, right?
It's getting stronger, though.
It is, you know, and it comes and goes. It's beyond frustration right now. So what you have in front of you is a revised sign ordinance. You may remember at the beginning of the year, the Planning Commission made a recommendation of adopting a sign ordinance. During that process, between the Planning Commission and the Township Board, some additional questions were brought up. You referred it back to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission took that opportunity, sit down with the Township attorney, and go through each section of the ordinance. Based on that, a number of clarification items were done to the ordinance, especially relating to billboards, lighting, conformance to other regulations. And essentially under those, they were just brought into compliance with other ordinances that were already on the books. The majority of the ordinance focuses on temporary signs and how they're dealt with in a residential setting. And essentially what it does is it limits the number of signs based on square footage, or the size of signs by total square footage, is the number of signs you can have. The message that's on those signs, it's up to the property owner what's on them. So we no longer have specific regulations for things like political signs, but we just have a general temporary sign requirements in there now. So the Planning Commission has recommended approval of the changes here, and I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Treasurer Tucker?
I agree with everything Mike said. I think it's a kind of a cleanup thing. The content removal stuff is dictated by Supreme Court rulings, so we can either change it or find it's not enforceable, however you want to look at it. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve and get the language consistent with current legal requirements.
Thanks, Mike, I appreciate
One
it.
second.
Oh, go ahead, Kate.
I'm just curious, do we know why we're removing the condition that the digital signs shall not use red as the predominant color? Do we know why that was there?
So old school, right? Those old signs were that beady red that people just, in my opinion, it was a preference, right? And that ended up in the first sign ordinance.
Okay.
And then when Community 2 went to update their sign ordinance, they're like, oh, well, they're doing it. And then right next thing you know, everyone has this requirement. The signs that are out there today are not like the signs they used to be. So any negative impact that may have been from just those old red readers, they don't sell those. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You were also told that they could be confused with traffic control devices, and the point that Mike just made also applies to that. The imagery is a lot better than what it used to be, although I'll bet you I can find a McDonald's that's still got a red reader board on it. Bet you a Big Mac.
All right, Kate, I was going to hold you off until after public comment.
Oh, sorry.
I will now open up the meeting for public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the board on our sign ordinance? Anyone? Mueller? Nobody knows the movie. Wow.
Bueller.
I know. I thought they were going to correct me and leave it to a board member. All right. Is there anyone here attending via Zoom that would like to address the board on our sign ordinance? If you are, please unmute. All right, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, the second reading of the proposed ordinance will be conducted at our September 17th meeting. Moving on to unfinished business, we have none. All right, new business. Request for preliminary plat approval extension, Pinnacle Shores subdivision. Mike, sorry.
All right, so you have a request to extend the tentative plat approval for Pinnacle Shores. The subdivision control, right, process is oddly named, and so it's really a three-step process where you have tentative preliminary approval, then you get final preliminary approval, and then you get final approval. So it kind of matches up with our site plan review process, right? So tentative preliminary approval is what we call preliminary approval, right? You get your layout, see that it complies with the ordinance, and then you get preliminary approval. Then you go off and go through your engineering phase, and that's when you pay all the money and all the science is done. And that matches up with the next step in this process, which is the preliminary approval phase. Then once that's done, it comes back in front of the township board in this situation for, where you would grant that final preliminary approval. Final approval in this platting process is actually after everything is done and they bring in the plat books with all the work done, showing what's the as-built of everything. So this project's been going on for 30 years, right? And they've been renewing their tentative preliminary approval every 2 years. I think we've discussed at the previous meeting, right, that part of this property had been put in to a farmland preservation program through the federal government. It's now out of that, and they're here again, right, looking to extend their approval. I think comments that you've received in the past are concerns about the lack of secondary entrance and exit to the project, right? And that's always what this next phase was supposed to include. It's been 30 years, right? The ordinance that this was approved under, right? They wouldn't be able to be approved by that anymore. I think that it's important that that second entrance be finally done. I think you're at a point now, after 30 years, that that second entrance should be in. I think based on the fact that this is a planned unit development and that they've continuously brought it in front of you, that it makes sense to extend it one more time with the condition that they install the road as shown on the original plan 30 years ago. I would recommend that after that, if it's not completed, that additional extensions is not be, granted. But I think we're at a point now where they need to do what they promised to do, and we get that road put in. If you do extend the approval, their next steps would be for the final preliminary approval. According to the ordinance, that requires them to submit to the township engineer and all the relevant county agencies. After they've received those approvals, it comes in front of the township board for final preliminary plat approval. After that, they can go through their construction phase. So that is where they are in the process, and I am here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Is there any way to actually place a condition that would require them to build that road before they continue to develop out the subdivision? So what I'm concerned about is the new road is going in right now. And a lot of residents are concerned that they're going to keep bringing in all the heavy sort of building material along that new road, and the secondary, we've been told this secondary road will be built for a long time. And that they're going to keep sort of incrementally developing out the property, but from the side where we already have the road, including the new road, and never actually build the old one. So I'm not sure if there's a way to formally have a condition that the road gets built first, or if we...
Well, I think that would be when they come in for their final preliminary approval, right? It's in front of the township board. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you would be looking for is construction entrances, how they plan on doing that during the construction of the project. And one of the requirements would be they can only come in through the final entrance there.
Okay, but there can be like requirements placed on it?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. I just, because that's the concern I have. I do think there should be a second entrance, and there always was planned to be a second entrance, but there isn't. And if the road, people are protective of the new road that they've just paid for, and we don't want it to just keep sort of incrementally getting built without the new road. And I'm sure people have lots of other feelings about it one way or another too. I think people feel kind of burned by. I know there's people who are angry that the farmland is there now. I'm concerned that pesticides might be getting into their water. There's lots of concerns people have. I'm not sure those are really appropriately brought into the tentative approval of the plot. But I think definitely if there's not some condition that road gets built, I think at least the feeling of everyone in the neighborhood is that they're just going to keep going through the same entrance they've gone through, not build the road, and just extend out a little bit longer and build more houses without getting the second entrance ever in.
Mike, do they currently have the ability to keep building houses under what's already been approved, or are you saying that they're going to have to come back if we give them this 2-year extension with the understanding they are going to put in the second entrance, that no construction will be done, or can they keep building?
So the existing approved vacant lots can be built on.
And how many are those?
Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question.
Those would be the ones along the existing road?
Yes.
Okay.
There's Not a lot.
Kind of a two-part question. I see in Mr. Atwell's letter to the board, it said, working on tentative layout to extend the subdivision with 12 additional lots. As far as those lots, are those over and above the amount that was originally permitted, approved?
Well, there was 214 lots
Okay.
that were originally approved. 214 have not been built.
Okay, well, this says containing 211 lots.
Maybe it's
And then the
200.
next sentence is, we're currently working on a tentative layout to extend the subdivision with 12 additional lots that would also extend the Bennett Lake Road. And my two-part question is, one, again, is it over the amount that was originally approved? And are you getting any sense that I'll build you this road if you give me 12 more lots?
The 12 is part of what was originally approved.
So
It's
the
a
12
por- it's
does
a-
not put it over
No.
what was originally
No,
approved?
it's a portion of what is yet to be developed. It
Why are
was
they
previously
asking for
approved.
12 more if it says?
Well, I think it means 12 additional lots to what exists today.
I think-
Because the other lots don't exist yet because the plating process hasn't been completed on those, for those other phases. That's the part that's been extended all these years.
Yeah. If
Just
you-
so the board knows, just Mr. Atwell is here also, so
Okay.
if there are any
Yeah.
questions that we would like to
Yeah.
Yeah, I
address with
think
Mr. Atwell, he is present. I didn't want to
Okay.
pull him up yet.
Yeah, just, I think with those lots, I think those are the lots along the road, and
They
so
are.
basically it's.
That's what,
it's-
I just wanted to make sure that those
Yeah.
were still included in the total amount
Yeah.
originally approved.
Okay,
And if it's in
Yeah.
that envelope, okay.
but that's also
I'll go with
not, that sounds like is that a separate process then with the tentative layout to extend the that's not we have the extension of the tentative approval, and then separately from that, there would be a process for the extension of the subdivision with lots? Or is it
No, I think it's, all right. So, two things. One, the extension of the approval is for the last part of the subdivision. It's not for existing lots that have already been platted. The road extension is my recommendation, right? As far as I know, that has not been proposed by Mr. Atwell,
okay.
right? I think based on the history of the project, that we're at a point now where we need that road in.
So your recommendation is to amend this motion to include?
Yeah, I think the completion of the road should be a condition of any approval.
Okay.
What am I missing, Mike? These 12 additional units have the road that goes to Bennett Lake Road. Does it not connect to the rest of the subdivision?
That you're going to have to ask
No,
Mr.
that-
Atwell for that. I'm not
It does, but it
entirely.
doesn't exist yet. That's,
Yeah, it's
that's
not there.
that's what he's, I think that's what he's saying his next phase is, wants
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
And I think what Mike's saying is that needs to get done first,
Right.
to get any more extensions after that.
Right.
So he hasn't actually, I don't think, applied or submitted things to get that done, other than, here, this is what I'm planning to do.
Oh, all right, so the map that we're looking at is,
Doesn't exist yet.
Okay.
It's part of the original preliminary plat,
right.
but it's not developed yet.
All right.
It's not part of anything that's been.
All right, well, it was attached to his letter, so I kind of deduced from that that
I did
that
too
was
at first.
part of what he's proposing to do.
My feeling with that, and I mean, obviously he can speak for himself. I guess what residents' concern is, would be that basically every time it comes up, we've wanted him to build out this road and he said he's going to do it. And I guess including this map just looks to me like a more sophisticated way of saying, hey, look, I'm planning to do this. And if there's not a formal condition,
I understand.
I don't necessarily trust that it'll happen.
I understand.
And we've also had the situation where that property was put in a federal program, right, where it couldn't be developed for 10 years.
Right.
While still asking,
It's a 30-year project, Mike, we got time.
And we didn't know about that.
so.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Would anyone like to address Mr. Atwell? He is in the audience.
Tom, when's the road going in? When is the road going to go in?
Well, we're working on the engineering right now.
What do you need? County approvals?
Pardon me?
What do you need to be able to put the road in?
I'd like to put it in this fall.
And you need county approvals?
Yeah, they've submitted for approval from the county for the road and for also for the drainage, the storm drains.
So conditioning the extension on the construction of this road wouldn't be a problem for you. You're already planning on doing it, right?
Pardon me?
Putting a condition on the extension of the approval that you gotta put the road in isn't really a problem for you because you're planning on putting the road in now anyway, right?
Yeah, I'd like to put it, yeah.
Okay. Now we're telling you have to put it in. That's to get the extension. That's what we're talking about.
No, I don't have to have approval of the extension. Well, I don't feel. But I just would like to go ahead and get the extension. So the window of time could get by in a hurry. I mean, we're talking the end of December and back in.
Yeah. But what we're talking about is giving you the extension on the condition that you put the road in.
I will put it in, yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna make you put it in. You're good with that, right?
Yeah, I don't have.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Atwell. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't hear very
No, that's,
I try to put my hearing aids and it just goes boom, boom, back and forth, so.
thank you very much for attending.
Well, thank you, all
Appreciate
board
it.
members for your time and consideration.
Good to see you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Hearing now, who wants to, or I'll entertain a motion with the, do you want to?
Yeah, let me take a stab at it.
Nah, take
Back
a
to the
stab.
agenda here.
Take a stab.
All right. Make a motion that we, let me get there. That we extend preliminary plat approval for Pinnacle Shores subdivision for a period of, should have asked Mike,
2 years.
2 years, conditioned on the construction of the road extension to Bennett Lake Road.
12 months.
Sorry?
A year?
Within a year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Within 12 months from the date of this extension, consistent with the preliminary engineering plans that were provided to us with the extension request.
Support.
One more question, point of clarification if I may. Tom, this letter from him states that it is approved, the preliminary plat for 211 lots.
Yes.
On this map that's attached to it, I show that we're at 124, and that's, so we're missing another 80 somewhere. And I just want to make sure that these aren't extra over and above.
They are not.
They are not.
They absolutely not.
Then, okay, I'll second the motion.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Reed,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is resolution number 2024-38. This is to schedule a public hearing, 2024 Fire Protection Special Assessment. In keeping with the past practice and policy, the board needs to schedule a public hearing at the September 17th meeting for the 2024 Fenton Township Fire Protection Special Assessment Roll. The proposed roll maintains the assessment amount at $65 per parcel. A resolution has been prepared to formally schedule the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, resolution number 2024-38, Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
It acknowledges the filing of the special assessment roll with the clerk and its availability for review until the public hearing. Schedules a public hearing on the special assessment roll at the September 17th board meeting. Directs the clerk to publish the notice of hearing according to statute, and it repeals any conflicting resolutions. I will move the resolution.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Kessler.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Kotrick.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business, resolution number 2024-39, proposed street lighting special assessment, West Winds Phase 1. Operations Manager, will you review?
Yes, the developer of West Winds condominium has petitioned for the creation of a street lighting special assessment district for their initial phase of their development. The proposed district would pay for installation and ongoing operation of maintenance of street lights in the first phase. Included in the packet is a resolution to schedule the first public hearing for our next meeting.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, resolution number 2024-39. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Tentative declares the township intent to install and operate streetlights in the first phase of the West Wind condominium subdivision. Tentatively designates the special assessor role as the West Wind number 1 street lighting special assessment district, which includes units 1 through 67 of the West Wind condominium subdivision. Schedules a public hearing for the September 17, 2024 Township Board meeting. Directs the clerk to publish and mail the hearing notice in accordance with statute. Repeals any conflicting statutes or resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Where is this sub? I should know this, but I'm not.
It's adjacent to Stony Brook. It's what would have
Okay.
been Stony Brook Phase 3.
Oh, the new
But
one?
they
Okay.
changed,
Yep.
they changed the, made it a separate condo is
Yeah.
all, but it's adjacent to.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Gopel.
Yes.
I vote yes. Kessler.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Kotrick.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. Next under new business is resolution number 2024-40, proposed lake improvement special assessment district, a special assessment for Pine Lake. Operations Manager, Broker, will you please review?
Yes, the most recently approved lake improvement special assessment for Pine Lake expired after last year's tax roll. The association has requested a new 3-year special assessment and provided a proposed contract to go along with it. So the first next step in the process is to schedule the first public hearing, and we have a resolution to do just that.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none. Resolution number 2024-40. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Tentatively declares the township's intent to continue the existing lake improvement project for Pine Lake. Tentatively designates the special assessment district as the Pine Lake Improvement Assessment District number 3, which includes all properties fronting Pine Lake. Schedules a public hearing for September 17, 2024 Township Board meeting. Directs the clerk to publish and mail the hearing notice in accordance with statute. Repeals any conflicting resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Kessler.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Kotrick.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on to the next. Next under new business is resolution number 2024-41, accelerated foreclosure on abandoned property. I'm sure we've all reviewed the memo in our packet, but Treasurer Tucker, you want?
The only thing I got to add is it's silly that we got to keep doing this every time, because the decision itself is easy. If it's abandoned, you want to get it, you don't want blighted property around, you want to do it fast. I've only said this 50 times. It should just be automatically part of the law, but whatever. I'm good with it. I think we need to do it.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? All right. Okay, resolution number 2024-41. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Resolves the abandoned tax delinquent property will be identified and inspected, and many be certified as certified abandoned property under the certification of abandoned property for accelerated
Foreclosure.
just drew a blank. Foreclosure, forfeiture, thank you. Act and subject to accelerated forfeiture and foreclosure under the General Property Tax Act. I'll move the resolution.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Petrick?
Yes.
I vote yes. Kessler?
Yes.
Gopel?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob, and we're rounding third base. All right, next business order is board comment. Is there anybody on the board who has additional comments or concerns? All right, we will move on to public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I'll now open up the meeting for the public on agenda or non-agenda items. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Our assessor, Julia.
You didn't ask for the public comment at the rezoning, it failed. And if you recall, I've been up the last 2 times. What am I to do with the 2 lots that are having a half acre added to them because that failed?
Submit a rezoning application for that portion. That would be consistent
And
with.
is it another fee of $700
I
for
don't
those
need
2
it.
acres?
It's up to the board.
I don't know what, I mean, I don't know what the process is when you do that. I thought we were gonna throw that in, but, just another application.
Yep,
and
just
then
by
we'll
itself,
deal with
freestanding.
that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Julia. Is there anyone else in attendance tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Okay. Hearing none, I will move to Zoom. Anyone attending via Zoom that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? If you do, unmute, raise your hand. All right. Nobody out there? All right, nobody on Zoom, nobody else here. I want to thank everybody both on Zoom and those that attended tonight. Thank you very much. It is now 7:48 p.m. If there's nothing else, I say good night and the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
That was better than I thought.